Welcome back, everyone, to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Murph, and let's talk about the big news of the day. Bitcoin absolutely going to the moon with one of Elon Musk's rockets, as Tesla updated their filing status with this SEC, talking about how they might be holding additional digital assets. In fact, disclosing that they bought 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin using their cash reserves. So that's the huge news of today, and we'll look at the direct impact that it has had on the market. If you look at the dollar value of all your altcoins, they're still doing well, but if you look at them versus Bitcoin, something's happened. And so we're going to go over that, and we're going to cover one of the amazing blockchains. Two of my biggest favorites are Polkadot and Cardano, but there's a little kid brother there that might grow up to rival them, and we're going to talk about that one today. So let's go into Elrond, and we will talk about, as we're talking about Elrond, the impact that Bitcoin taking off has had on alts, and will it continue to have that kind of impact on alts? We will go into that as we look at some Bitcoin dominance. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get right into it. So Elrond is up at $173 in a massive, massive run that has cooled off only because Bitcoin has been taking the steam out of the sales of some of the altcoins. Also, usually there's a retrace. If you look even at the history of this, just this is the recent 7 days, you do see pullback periods, right? And they just have little tiny pullbacks. And this one might not be any bigger than the others. Looking at the market cap, it's got a market cap of almost 3 billion, which may seem like a lot. It sure seems like a lot based on when I bought this forever ago, before they merged to the new chain and they took 1,000 of their tokens and merged them into Elrond Gold tokens. There were some massive run-ups, which, I'm grateful to this project. It did very well for me. I sold them during the hype of that because I figured after the hype was over it would settle, and it did settle. But since then, what I didn't do is I didn't come back and buy back in, unfortunately for me, because October would have been a fantastic time to have bought. So when they merged all those into one, there was a lot of hype about it, and then it just cooled and simmered. And you see this a lot, that things go vertical and then they cool and they simmer. Unfortunately, when I go max, because of how they merged those previous tokens into a new eGold token, you don't see that history on CoinMarketCap here. So what you would see is you would see a parabolic run leading up to this. And then you see a sideways period, which is a fantastic time for accumulation in projects that you believe in. And then you see little blips of it taking off and some pullbacks before it absolutely went parabolic and may continue. If we think of this as the kid brother to Polkadot and Cardano, it's at a 3 billion market cap, and let's look at the market cap of Cardano at 22 billion and Polkadot at 21 billion. So a long ways to go just for it to be there. I mean, it could 7x and then reach there as these ones reach for higher during this bull market. So what do I expect to happen with it? Well, let's talk about more what it is. Now, Elrond has some really cool things about it, and the staking returns on it right now are fantastic. And they do fall off. A lot of the way they structured some of their token supply with the Elrond Gold and also their staking rewards, they modeled it after some patterns that were successful with Bitcoin. And so the staking rewards this year are phenomenal, but they will go down. Now, some of the amazing things about the Elrond blockchain is it has faster transaction speeds than Visa. If you think one of the major drawbacks of decentralized databases, essentially, which is what a blockchain is that usually you suffer greatly. You get great security out of it, but you suffer greatly in transaction throughput. But because of the way they structured some things, and they structured them in some very creative ways, learning some lessons and building on the shoulders of some giants like Ethereum and others who furthered a lot of this technology, and they put it together in relatively a short time in some very good ways that make them a contender and a strong blockchain for the future. Now, Visa can hold up to 26,000 transactions per second. And they blow them. Elrond absolutely blows that away. They do a random sampling of consensus group, and combined with a random reshuffling of nodes, and so also the block proposers signing a previous random source. And so one of the things that makes them so quick on their transaction speeds is that they use this different bits of randomness that help provide security while not slowing down the blockchain processes. So they also have, instead of proof of work, which was one of the initial ways of reaching high security through blockchains, which is what Bitcoin was set up on, and it's also what Ethereum was set up on. Proof of stake is a lot more energy and environmental friendly, as well as it's much more scalable. So they have built on proof of stake, but to get their security while still having high throughput access, they're using these different methods of randomness. With all the randomness involved, somebody trying to hack over and take over the system, it would make it very, very, very difficult, because there's so much randomness in which validators are chosen, which blocks they have to validate, etc. So without going too deep into it, there are additional things that bring them high transaction throughput. They have network sharding, they have transaction sharding, and thirdly, they also have state sharding. Now, sharding is a term that gets thrown out a lot. If you're unfamiliar with sharding, it's something that Zilliqa uses and Cardano uses to help them have high transaction throughput. But essentially, it breaks down the chain into several chains in order to be able to process transactions simultaneously. Does that make sense? So if you have to process all the transactions at the same time on one single chain, then it bottlenecks. But what if you can shard that into 1,000 different instances, such as Cardano, the way it handles that, and process those at the same time? Then you can process 1,000 times as much as if it were just on one single chain. So Elrond uses this same consensus mechanism. Well, also uses this. I wouldn't say it uses it the same way Cardano does. They've taken a different approach to it. But the combination of smart choices that they have made took Elrond from just a micro cap just a year ago to some phenomenal numbers. Now, they did have some big advantages. Binance did do the initial offering so that you could actually buy it on Binance. It's called an initial exchange offering. And so they made it available. And their partnership with Binance not only brought them a lot of attention, but Binance wouldn't have done that if they didn't love what they were seeing in the technology. So it gave them a huge kickstart, not only in raising funds as they sold their tokens, but also in awareness. And even still, when I first bought some, it was really low, and it absolutely went parabolic. And it's still only at a market cap of $3 billion. Even after its recent parabolic move. So does it have room to grow in this bull market? Would seem so. At some point when you go absolutely vertical, at some point there's a cooling off period, then usually a sideways trading period. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I like to look at patterns. And so let's go to the Bitcoin dominance chart. Let's look at some patterns, because that's going to help inform us on, will it continue to go parabolic, or might it be cooling for a bit? And some of this is still a guess, because even while Bitcoin dominance has been taking off again, there's been a few chains that have been doing some really good numbers during that time. So let's go to Bitcoin dominance. And so one of the things I frequently do is I look to the left, or I look to the past to see how Bitcoin dominance has behaved in the past. Now, in a lot of understanding what Bitcoin does, it's nice because we can go back to previous bull markets of, say, 2017, and then we can go to 4 years prior of 2013, and we can get some history as an idea of what might it do this bull market. Unfortunately, altcoins were really just hard forks or different forks of Bitcoin until the last bull market when new technologies were coming around. And Ethereum had been launched much prior to this, but their functionality was coming online, and they were a very serious altcoin that had some amazing things over what Bitcoin had as far as functional usage, not just a store of value, which is what Bitcoin has been dominating in. But also during this 2017 bull run, there were a lot of altcoins doing their initial token offerings or initial coin offerings. And so we see Bitcoin's dominance fell off a cliff starting in February of 2017, and it happens right at the middle of February. Well, we're not even at the middle of February yet. We're about 10 days away from, even 12 days away from being at this point. I think about the 20th of February. Now it looks like the 24th of February is when this starts. But you do notice right here it falls and then it climbs. So maybe we're having a climb here. Now if you've done some technical analysis training or some learning, you know that there's this pattern we frequently refer to called a head and shoulders. And so we do run the risk of this coming back up. So we had this parabolic run on many altcoins. I'm just going to give us a little bit lower time frame here. We had a parabolic run of Bitcoin followed by Bitcoin's dominance slipping to altcoins, many of which were going parabolic and having some massive gains, which is the major part of what caused this drop. Now Bitcoin did go from like 44,000 back down, retracing to 30,000, and so that accounts for some of its dominance drop. But meanwhile, many altcoins were increasing in value, and that's what we saw here. So just recently, after having gone down to about 61% dominance, it recently jumped up to 64% dominance, and that's because altcoins all of a sudden versus Bitcoin, many sold their altcoins rolling it into Bitcoin, expecting Bitcoin to take a run. And if we look at Bitcoin, I thought I had it up, but I guess I don't. DCUSD. Let's look at the full featured chart, because that's the ones I like. All right. So, boy, I got marks all over this one, don't I? So we did have it break out of this triangle, and it broke high. It then did come back and retested, and now is going parabolic with Elon Musk's announcement. So normally you would see a lot of sideways trading for a while, much longer than what we saw here. And we did not see that, because that is a big deal. If you realize that Elon Musk is a force for change, and so not only did he talk about it the other day, but when they saw that he rolled 1.5 billion of Tesla stock into not stock, but cash holdings into Bitcoin, that there's a lot of people who now, kind of CEOs, now have permission to do the same. Because the risk is if a CEO made that decision before and their public or the stockholders and shareholders didn't agree with that decision, they risk being ousted. But now that Elon Musk did it, many of the shareholders will be pushing the CEOs to do it, so we might see a continuation. Now what usually follows is a big run in Bitcoin, and it may go for technical reasons up to 54, 55,000 area, before then probably cooling off and trading sideways is everyone's best guess. And so while that happens, altcoins usually suffer, including Elrond and others. Now, you see its parabolic run here, going almost vertical here, and then all of a sudden that announcement comes out and bam, it takes a dip here. Now it's still got some momentum, which is why its Satoshi value keeps trying to come up, but you see that has had a cooling effect, and it will likely continue to have a cooling effect on many of the alts in their Bitcoin pairings. If we're to check Elrond versus USD, it still is going somewhat parabolic because there is a little bit of a pullback here, but it's not that its dollar value is decreasing so much as its price versus Bitcoin as Bitcoin has skyrocketed. So you see how parabolic that is. Now, when it goes parabolic like this, even in the massive bull market that we'll probably see later this year, there usually is cooling off periods before it then resumes. Now, I remember watching much of this happen in 2017, but I was new enough at crypto. I didn't fully understand what was happening. I hadn't really seen it before. I traded stocks before, but stocks don't tend to go as parabolic as crypto can. And so it was a new experience to me watching this and really understanding how things don't go straight to the moon, even when they're going to the moon. They usually take a step there. It's kind of like 3 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 4 steps forward, 2 steps back, but they stair step it on their way there. And we're seeing one big step here, right? So if I remember, when I bought, their market cap was under 100 million. And I rode that all the way to like 300 million market cap. I don't remember what the specific price was, but then I sold. Even though, well, I did tier it. So I sold some, and then I sold some more later, and then I couldn't believe how much had gone up, and I sold some more later. But I didn't understand how breakthrough their technology was. I just knew that the charts looked very good for them. And so it isn't until the last couple of weeks that I've been studying them more in depth to realize how good their technology is, and that they are like a kid brother to some of the major giants out there that has a chance to compete with them head to head if things do go right for them. The technology, based on how they did it, is that good. The question is the programming as good as their ideas say it is? So if they program it in an efficient way and a secure way, they should do really well with what they've got planned, especially if they can find a way to do true randomness. True randomness is actually a very difficult problem to solve in the programming world. So where do I think it's going to go overall? Well, it's already gone to almost 200 before it pulled back. But if you think about it, can it 10x from here? Absolutely. I mean, just going back to this is CoinGecko, but CoinGecko's list, and just looking at where they are in, why are they not here? Here we go. They're at a market cap of $3 billion. Can they go to $30 billion this run? I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't see why they wouldn't go much higher than that. So Cardano's already close to that 30 billion mark and has a lot of room to run. Polkadot, and we have many more months during this bull cycle. We're only in February. Now we will have some cooling off periods, and maybe some of these retrace for a while, especially as Bitcoin probably takes a run for a little while. But we have a long ways ahead of us. We've broken $1 trillion market cap, which nobody would have thought could have been done 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But this technology is literally changing the world. Now, some of the reasons these market caps go so high versus, say, the U.S. stock exchange is because the worldwide availability. Somebody in a poor town in Africa with a cell phone can literally participate in cryptocurrency much more than they could in, say, the United States' stock exchange. And so it does give the availability of people all around the world to be able to participate, which will increase the market cap much bigger than what this U.S. stock market could ever go to. Does that make sense? As well as part of the reason the U.S. stock market is so high is that they did in the 90s create an environment that was very friendly to the boom of this internet era, which allowed giant companies like Google to thrive, Facebook to thrive, even Twitter, and many of the other technology companies like Oracle and others to really thrive. Now, unfortunately for the United States, they're not as ahead in the crypto space in friendly regulation. We hope this administration is friendly with cryptocurrency so that it can grow like it could grow. But if not, other countries will step up to the plate there, and you will see their economies boom like no other. And maybe even take the place of the United States as being the leader in technology, as this crypto revolution and the technology behind it changes the way finance and some of the other industries operate. Does that make sense? So I'm a big fan of Elrond or eGold. I don't like the name with gold in it, but really, honestly, I don't like that at all. Elrond is a fine name. The name of their token, eGold, because it's not so much like an eGold. And I know they built it structured like a much faster Bitcoin blockchain with smart contracts and stuff. So I get their reasoning behind it. I just don't like it as much. Really, I don't know that they can ever supplant Bitcoin as being a replacement, a store of value for gold. Really, what they have is a blockchain that applications can be built on top of it, run very smoothly and efficiently, as long as their technology delivers on what their plan is. And so far it has been, which is why they're doing so well. So where do I see it going? Would make sense to me that it could 20x from here. And if we were to pull out the calculator, $173 times 20 equals, all right, did I get that one right? 3,460. So where would that take their market cap? Roughly to $60 billion, and that might be low. So $173 and 3,460 to $3,460. Quite a run, and that might be low. A market cap of 60 billion might be low for what their technology says that they can do. Let's see if I had anything else. Oh, I did want to talk about the tokenomics behind it, and the tokenomics were done quite smart. They did sell initially 5 billion tokens on Binance. Then they had done a private sale, and they raised 1.9 million initially. And initially their tokens were set up on the Binance chain. But there was so much attention to Uniswap, they did allow a one-to-one conversion to ERC20 tokens. Now this is their original, I think it was an ERD token. Then late last year, they did a switch or a swap where they took 1,000 of those tokens and turned them into one to decrease the total supply, which brought them to a supply of 20 million. Now they do have staking available. And so the total supply now is 20 million plus a little over 20 million. Let's look at it. 20,397,000. And it will go all the way to, I think, 31.5 million over time. And what it is their staking rewards just decrease every year that goes on. And so kind of like Bitcoin, which decreases its increasing supply every 4 years, I think Elrond decreases its increasing supply every 1 year, but at about the same rate that Bitcoin does. So it has many of the same features of Bitcoin, kind of like what everyone wishes Bitcoin could be, which is not only a good store of value, but it's got smart contracts and allows people to be able to build on top of it. And probably their goal is to replace Bitcoin. I just don't see anybody doing that, but they are a high-performance blockchain. And it seems like they're delivering really well on that. So the tokenomics, really the way they set it up, are structured to an increase in value of those tokens and should help. And there's no massive supply that can be dumped on the heads of those who are buying now. I really like that about it. So, sometimes when you see that the circulating supply is 10 million, but the total supply of a coin is 150 million, and you realize less than 10% is out there, and where's the rest of that going to come in? And is that some people that hold it that might all of a sudden dump it into the market, which totally collapses the price? You don't have anything like that going on here. So I really like what I'm seeing. Many of you have suggested I do a review on it, and I appreciate that. It was time for me to do a review on it. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed if you aren't already familiar with it. If you are and you've many of you have actually done really well with Elrond, and congratulations. There's a lot of good things about it. One of the challenges we have in this market is there's so much good stuff out there, is picking which good stuff to be involved in. And with hindsight, that's always 2020, right? Because you have your funds allocated to certain things, and then one that you like but you didn't buy absolutely takes off, and then you're like, darn it. I do want to thank all of you who have subscribed to the channel. You're really helping me towards that goal of having enough subscribers that I can go to the project teams and the project directors and executive officers and marketing officers and have conversations with them directly and bring them on the channel. And not only me ask them questions, but I can get some of your questions in advance to ask them. And so thank you, all of you who have been joining me on this journey. I appreciate your warm support. Actually, many of you have been very supportive and kind. I appreciate that a lot. And if you like the content you're getting here, I'd love it if you like the channel. Down the road, we'll add some extra things. I don't edit these. I do have a video good editor that edits my real estate videos. I currently still work as a real estate investor, and I love real estate investing, and I'll always be passionate about real estate. But I can't help but be passionate about crypto, and I've been investing in it since 2017. I completely fell in love with it then. I have honestly probably spent 3 hours a day researching and learning for myself since then. So it's just an addiction, right? So when in the Matrix, when Morpheus comes to Neo and says red pill and blue pill, and when you have that moment in crypto and you do go down that rabbit hole, you realize you do lose sleep. It's exciting and thrilling and sometimes even terrifying. I did learn that I don't like to hold my crypto through crypto winter. We'll see what's going on with the US dollar come this December, January, and February, which would normally be a time that I would be cashing out, and probably will be a time that I will be at least selling off some just to hedge my risk against another, bear market coming. It does seem that crypto runs on these 4-year cycles. And I learned some painful lessons in 2017 by not securing my positions in US dollars, as then crypto winter came and erased all these massive gains that I'd gotten and took them back to below what I had even put in, which is really disheartening to watch. And so I don't want to find myself in that position again. And so I have since then learned more about the cyclical nature and the 4-year cycle that cryptocurrency tends to go on. Now, over time, the cyclical nature will decrease as far as the ups and the downs, but I don't see any reasons why yet. There could be things that change my mind, but I don't see any reasons yet on why this crypto winter coming up won't be savage after some massive, massive gains this year. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I will see you soon. Bye.